This isn't just another story about data breaches or firewalls. No, this is a true crime narrative about a totally new kind of predator. One who figured out how to weaponize people's deepest, most private secrets, turning therapy sessions into tools for pure extortion. And it's a story that kicks off with a moment of just incredible luck for the police.
So everything we're about to dive into is based on the amazing, deep reporting from Joe Tidy's book, Ctrl Alt Chaos, which really pulls back the curtain on this chaotic and often terrifying world of teenage hackers.
I mean, that question sounds like it's straight out of a movie script, right? But on February 3rd, 2023, it actually happened. It became a reality, and it kicked off the final chapter in a manhunt that had been going on for a decade. A hunt for one of the internet's most infamous phantoms.
Okay, so picture this. It's a quiet, leafy suburb of Paris. Police get a call about a routine domestic disturbance. Totally normal stuff. They ask the man of the house for his ID, and he hands over a Romanian passport. Everything seems fine, until they run the name and an alert flags. The guy standing in front of them is absolutely not who he says he is.
This was his real name, and you can bet that name sent shockwaves all the way from that quiet street in Paris to the cybercrime unit back in Helsinki, Finland. They'd been hunting this guy for years, and he'd just been caught completely by chance.
Online, he was known by a bunch of names, but the most notorious, the one that made people really nervous, was Z-Kill. For more than a decade, that alias was just a ghost, linked to a trail of digital chaos, disruption, and frankly, profound harm. He even had the nerve to call himself the untouchable hacker god.
So, what was the crime that made him Europe's most wanted? It was called the Vastaamo hack, an attack so unbelievably cruel and personal that it stunned even seasoned cybersecurity professionals and traumatized an entire nation. And yeah, we'll get to the horrifying details of that in just a moment.
But to really get Kivimäki's whole story, we've got to rewind the clock a bit, back to the early 2010s. This was a time when teenage hacking gangs, well, they weren't always about the money. They were about chaos, about getting famous, and doing it all for the lulz, or, just for laughs.
And this was their calling card. This was the logo for Lizard Squad. They were this loose group of teenagers, Kivimäki included, who would get together online and just try to cause the biggest mess they possibly could. Their goal wasn't some sophisticated spy operation, it was just to get attention by breaking the biggest things they could find.
And their most infamous act? They basically hijacked Christmas. Back in 2014, they actually announced their plan ahead of time and then, on Christmas Day, brought the world's two biggest gaming networks, Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, to a complete and total standstill.
Now, they did this using what's called a DDoS attack. That's distributed denial of service. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine 1,000 people all trying to shove their way through a single doorway at the exact same time. It just creates this digital traffic jam so massive that the whole service collapses under the strain. And the scale of this was just staggering. We're talking about 100 million people. Can you imagine? It's Christmas morning, you've got a brand new console under the tree, and nothing. The networks are completely dark, all because of a handful of teenagers. But you know what's really telling? It's the mindset. When a reporter actually managed to interview the then 17-year-old Kivimäki about ruining Christmas for millions, he just smirked and said this. See, it was never about some grand cause. It was just about the thrill of knowing you had the power to cause that much mayhem and feeling zero remorse. The Christmas hack was disruptive, for sure, but what came next was different. This is where the story really shifts, where hacking for the lulz turns into something deeply, personally, and just unforgivably cruel. So, in October of 2020, this message just appears on an anonymous Finnish forum. It was a cold, direct announcement of a horrifying new kind of crime. The target wasn't some tech giant, it was a mental health clinic. And the stolen data wasn't just usernames, it was the innermost secrets of incredibly vulnerable people. The hacker used the alias Ransom Man. And you can tell right away, this wasn't about bragging or trying to get famous online. No, this was the work of a digital predator. And the Finnish police? They were pretty sure they knew who it was, Julius Kivimäki.
So the attack went down in 3 absolutely cruel stages. First, the hacker broke into Vastaamo's servers and just stole everything. Second, he tried to extort the company for a big payday. But, and this is the part that shocked the world, when they didn't pay up, he started blackmailing the patients themselves.
We're talking children, adults, people in crisis, demanding money to keep their private therapy notes from being leaked online.
But here's the thing. Kivimaki wasn't operating in a vacuum. The tactics of chaos and cruelty that groups like Lizard Squad pioneered didn't just disappear with their arrests. Oh no. Instead, it feels like the baton was passed to a new generation, one that's become even more extreme.
We've seen groups like Lapsus who hit huge targets like Microsoft and Uber. And then you have these even more nihilistic online communities like The Calm and Scattered Spider. They basically took the blueprint and just escalated everything, mixing digital extortion with real-world threats of violence.
And this comparison really shows a kind of cultural decay, doesn't it? Early hacking from groups like Loft was often about finding security flaws to make things better, a practice called responsible disclosure. Today's ethos is a world away. It's all about pure nihilism, profit, and just inflicting harm for the sake of it.
And this escalation is perfectly captured by the rise of swatting, a tactic these groups use all the time. It's this incredibly dangerous prank where hackers make a fake emergency call to send a fully armed police team, a SWAT team, to an innocent victim's house. It completely blurs the line between online harassment and potentially lethal real-world danger.
Which leads us with this deeply unsettling question. As this cycle of teenage hacking evolves from pranks to actual predation, from DDoS attacks to direct threats of violence, what can anyone even do? The story of Julius Kivimaki isn't just about one criminal. It's a stark warning about where this whole culture might be headed next.
Hey, if you found this explainer valuable, clicking that like button and subscribing is a really huge help. It lets us keep making more of these for you. Thanks for watching.